The contract needed 2 signatures. Hers was not meant to be one of them. She signed it anyway, on the wrong line.
Ashworth House, London, on a Tuesday evening. The kind of evening reserved for business, dressed up as celebration. Julian Ashworth, Duke of Ashworth, sat at the head of the drawing room with a folio of parchment in front of him and a room full of people behind him who would all come to watch him sign it. Cecilia Vane sat across from him, composed, correct, already halfway to somewhere else in her own mind. Their marriage had been arranged the way most things in that room were arranged, by men who were not in it.
Eleanor Hale stood behind the Duke's chair, where secretaries were meant to stand. Not beside him, not near the fire. Just close enough to be useful and far enough to be forgotten. She held the ink, the blotting cloth, and a plain steel nib pen that had belonged to her father, worn smooth from 12 years of his hand before it came to hers. She marked every line that needed a signature with a small pencil tick, a habit he'd taught her before he died. She had done it for 40 contracts before this one. Tonight was the anniversary of his death. No one in that room knew that.
The room went quiet, the way rooms do just before something official happens. Cecilia signed first, careful, unhurried. The pen passed to Julian, who didn't look at the page before signing. He'd stopped looking at documents years ago, only at the lines he was told to sign. Then, because the ink had run thin, he held the pen back toward Eleanor. Without turning around, she took it. She found the tick mark. She signed. It was a heartbeat before anyone noticed the tick mark was 1 line too high. The room did not gasp. It went silent instead, which was worse. Julian looked down at the page, at her name, in her father's slant, sitting exactly where a bride's name was meant to sit. He could have called for new parchment. He could have laughed it off in front of 40 witnesses. Instead, he closed the folio over the wet ink before anyone else could read it and turned to her, and only her. "Did you mean it?" Lord Halden, the family solicitor, arrived at Julian's elbow within the hour, already pale. The contract, once signed, could not simply be re-signed, not without a formal voiding, not without every family in that room hearing exactly why. "You are, as it stands, betrothed to your secretary," Halden said, as though reading a weather report.
Julian considered this, with the mild interest of a man being told it might rain. "Then I suppose I'm engaged. How efficient of her." Eleanor tried to leave twice. The first time, she offered to fetch fresh parchment herself. He said he still needed her to finish the correspondence for the evening, and didn't move from where he stood, which happened to be between her and the door. The second time, she offered her resignation outright. He said resignations required a signature, and asked, quite reasonably, whether she'd like to sign it on the correct line this time. She didn't laugh. Neither, quite, did he.
"I don't know why I didn't stop you," he admitted finally, quieter than before. "I should have." "Then stop it now," she said. He didn't answer. 3 days later, Eleanor came to his study with the estate ledgers under one arm and a folded paper under the other. The annulment, drawn up herself, ready for his signature. A practical errand, nothing more. "You needed a reason to delay marrying her, and I gave you one without meaning to," she said, setting both papers in front of him. "That's all this was. I'd like you to sign the correct paper this time."
He didn't reach for the pen. He was quiet long enough that she began to believe she was right. "You've corrected my errors for 3 years and never once asked to be thanked for it," he said finally. "The night the east roof flooded,
You'd moved every ledger in this house to dry ground before you woke a single servant to tell them. You have never once asked me for anything, which is precisely why I have never once thought to give you anything, until a line on a page did it for me. He paused. I have watched you save this house 100 times.
I didn't want to be the one thing you didn't save. She said nothing. She set her father's pen down on the annulment, unsigned, and left it there when she walked out. Cecilia released the arrangement 2 days later, gracious about it, already looking toward a suitor who actually wanted the life she'd been assigned. No scandal followed her. She made sure of that herself. 11 days passed. No word from Ashworth House. Then a letter came, addressed only to her. 1 page, 1 paragraph, 1 line at the bottom, in his hand.
There is a line here with your name already on it, if you'll still have it. She read it 4 times before she let herself smile. Not the small, practiced smile she gave to rooms full of people, but the wide, undignified one she usually saved for when no one was watching. Same drawing room, same number of guests, same fire in the same grate. Julian sat at the head of the table with a folio in front of him, and this time, before he signed a single line, he turned and held the pen out to Eleanor first. Not by accident. In front of everyone.
She took it. She found the line, the one meant for a bride, and signed it herself. This time with her father's pen, and this time on purpose. The first time, her hand had trembled. This time, it didn't. The first signature had been a mistake. The second was a choice. If you made it this far, you already know how these stories end. Next week, a governess, a locked library, and a letter that was never supposed to be read by the man who found it. Stay close.